You're going to sell cars for a living. Big lot, waving flags, 100 shiny vehicles baking in the sun. Simple business. Buy low, sell high. Except the average new car dealership does $50 million a year in revenue and keeps less than 2% of it as profit. You could run a store that grosses more than most publicly traded companies and still go home with less money than the guy who manages your local Chipotle. And here's the part nobody tells you before you sign the franchise agreement. You don't actually make your money selling cars. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly where a car dealership's money really comes from, why the cars themselves are basically a loss leader, and why the fastest growing threat to this entire industry isn't a recession. It's the car you're trying to sell. Car dealerships don't sell cars. They sell financing, warranties, and trust in a transaction most people are terrified of getting scammed on. Think about it. A car is the second biggest purchase most people will ever make, right behind a house. And unlike a house, you're negotiating it face-to-face in a room with someone whose entire job is to know more about the deal than you do. The dealership isn't selling steel and upholstery. It's selling you the feeling that you didn't just get robbed. That feeling is worth more than the car. You don't just open a car lot. You apply to a manufacturer for the right to sell their cars, and manufacturers don't hand that out to just anyone. You need a facility that meets their image standards. Sometimes that means a multi-million-dollar showroom rebuild because Toyota or BMW wants a specific look. You'll need a location, and manufacturers protect territory. So if there's already a Ford dealer 20 miles away, you might not get approved at all. Then there's the money. A single new car franchise can require $5 to $10 million in startup capital before you sell one vehicle, land, building, parts inventory, and something most people never think about, floor plan financing. Here's the part that changes everything. You don't own the cars on your lot. You're borrowing money to buy them from a bank, and you pay interest on every single vehicle sitting there unsold. Every day a car doesn't sell, it's costing you money just to exist on your own property. So where does the money actually flow once you're open? Picture the building split into 3 departments that barely talk to each other. New and used car sales up front, the part everyone sees. The service department in the back, the part everyone forgets about. And tucked in a small office near the finance manager's desk, the F&I department, the part that actually keeps the lights on. New car sales run on razor-thin margins, sometimes 2 to 3% gross, because the manufacturer sets the price everyone can see online before you even walk in. Used cars are better, 8 to 12%, because there's no sticker to compare against. But the service department quietly generates 12 to 15% of total dealership revenue, while producing nearly half the store's actual gross profit. Oil changes, brakes, warranty work, recurring, predictable, and almost pure margin once the bay is built. But none of that is where the real money is. It's the F&I office, finance and insurance. The desk you sit at for 20 minutes after you've already agreed on the price, signing paperwork, while someone offers you an extended warranty, gap insurance, paint protection, a service contract. That 5-minute conversation can generate more profit than the entire car sale that came before it. Here's the number that should stop you. The average dealership makes over $2,000 in pure profit per vehicle from F&I products alone, often more than the profit margin on the car itself. Multiply that by a few thousand vehicles a year, and you understand why every dealership in America builds an entire department just to sell you paperwork. The car gets you in the door. The finance office is where the dealership actually gets paid. So how does the math work when you scale it? A single mid-sized dealership moving 100 cars a month at roughly $2,500 average gross profit per unit between sales and F&I combined is pulling in around $250,000 a month before overhead. Now subtract payroll for 40 to 60 employees, floor plan interest, facility costs, advertising. Dealerships routinely spend $400 to $600 per vehicle sold just on marketing, and that fat top-line number collapses down to a 1 to 3% net margin. You're running a business the size of a small hospital to keep a rounding error. This is why dealership groups don't get rich off one store. They get rich off owning 40 of them. Now here's where psychology takes over, because a dealership isn't really selling to your logic. It's selling to your anxiety. The showroom is designed to make you feel small, and the car feel aspirational. High ceilings, spotless floors, cars lit like museum pieces. The negotiation is designed to exhaust you, because a tired buyer says yes faster. "Let me go talk to my manager" isn't a formality, it's a stalling tactic that resets your patience clock. And the monthly payment, not the total price, is the number every salesperson steers you toward, because $400 a month sounds nothing like the $32,000 loan it actually is. None of this is accidental. It's the same playbook, refined over 70 years, store after store, city after city. Then there are the whales, the customers dealerships are quietly obsessed with. And it's not the guy buying one sedan. It's the fleet buyer. Companies, government agencies, rental car chains like Enterprise and Hertz that buy hundreds of vehicles at a time. Individually, low margin. But volume like that keeps a dealership's floor plan moving and its relationship with the manufacturer strong. Because manufacturers reward dealers who hit volume targets with bonus money, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars a month, just for selling enough units. Lose a major fleet account, and you don't just lose the sale. You lose the bonus tier that was propping up your whole month. Running this business never stops costing you. Floor plan interest alone can run into hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on a lot with 300 cars sitting on it. Add payroll, insurance, cybersecurity. Dealerships have become a top target for ransomware because they sit on troves of financial data and compliance with lending regulations that get stricter every year. And you understand why margins stay this thin even when the parking lot looks packed. And the risks don't wait for a recession to show up. Interest rates rise, and floor plan financing costs spike overnight on every unsold car in your lot. Manufacturers cut your allocation if they think you're underperforming, and suddenly you have fewer cars to sell through no fault of your own. State franchise laws protect you from the manufacturer selling direct, until a company like Tesla proves that model can be legally bypassed entirely, skipping dealers altogether and threatening the entire foundation this industry was built on. Which brings us to the case study that should terrify every dealer in America, 2008 and 2009. When the financial crisis hit, GM and Chrysler didn't just struggle. They went through government-backed bankruptcy, and as part of restructuring, they terminated thousands of dealer franchise agreements almost overnight. Over 2,000 dealerships were closed by decree, not by choice. Owners who had spent decades building their store, who had millions tied up in facilities and inventory, got a letter telling them their franchise no longer existed. The lesson wasn't that car dealerships are risky because of bad decisions. It's that your entire business can be terminated by a corporate decision made in a boardroom you have no seat at. So how do the winners survive? They diversify. The biggest dealer groups in the country, names like AutoNation and Lithia, don't rely on one brand or one location. They operate hundreds of stores across multiple manufacturers, so a bad year for one brand gets absorbed by a good year for another. They lean harder into service and F&I, the parts of the business that don't depend on new car supply. And increasingly, they buy up used car superstores and online platforms because the next generation of buyers doesn't want to spend 3 hours in a showroom negotiating. They want to do it from their couch. Which brings us back to where we started. You thought you were getting into the business of selling cars. You weren't. You were getting into the business of financing anxiety, and the car was just the thing that got the customer through the door. The dealership down the street isn't rich because of what's parked out front. It's rich because of what happens in a small office in the back, 20 minutes after you thought the deal was already done.